From November 2013 through to August 2014, Ukrainian people protested and fought for the opportunity to further integrate with Europe and fully emerge from under Russia's long shadow. In addition to demonstrations, civil disobedience and riots, there was also a hacking element to the protest movement that was known as Euromaidan. This is that history in brief. In late 2013, the Ukrainian President at the time, Viktor Yanukovych, suspended Ukrainian government preparations for signing the Ukraine-European Union Association Agreement with the European Union to pursue closer economic and political relations with Russia. This decision prompted massive protests, but before those protests even happened, there was unrest in Ukraine regarding the direction the government was taking the country in, and economic blackmail from Russia targeting Ukrainian exports. Before Euromaidan protests started, however, on November 15th of 2013, Anonymous was already hacking Ukrainian government sites. 1 gigabyte of data from customs.gov.ua, the Ukrainian Marine Customs of Danube and the Black Sea, was released along with a statement from Anonymous. Much of the inside of the package is related to former Ukraine Customs Chief Ihor Kaletnik, who is an active FSB operative enforcing the Russian rules of engagement in Ukraine. The statement from Anonymous also included the hashtag OpUkraine, which would become a rallying cry for activists opposing the Ukrainian government at the time. On the 21st of November, the Euromaidan protest started with 2,000 protesters gathered at Kiev's Independence Square, Maidan meaning square in Ukrainian, and began to organize themselves and grow their numbers with the help of social media and word of mouth, as well as television news coverage. BuzzFeed carries an article on the 22nd of November entitled "Ukraine's Internet Turns on its President After He Snubs Europe for Russia." The article details Ukrainian fury over the cancellation of the agreement with the EU and covers some of the memes circulating in Ukrainian social media circles. Euromaidan numbers swelled by November 24th when 200,000 people rallied in Kiev's Independence Square. The pro-EU demonstrators carrying Ukrainian and EU flags chanted "Ukraine is Europe" and sang the Ukrainian national anthem. Numbers of protesters would fluctuate in these early days as members of the government tried to reassure people that the EU agreement might still go ahead. By the 29th of November, it was obvious to Ukrainian people that the EU agreement was not going to happen. Numbers of angry people in the square again swelled. The next day, 30th of November, armed with batons, stun grenades and tear gas, Ukrainian Berkut special police units attacked and dispersed all protesters from the square while suppressing mobile phone communications in the area, a tactic that would be used along with localized internet blackouts to prevent protester communications or the sharing of footage of government violence on social media. In response to the police violence, on the 1st of December, the Euromaidan riots took place throughout Kiev. Protesters fought in the streets with the authorities, and a government building was occupied. Immediately following the riots, there was a return to peaceful demonstrations, with the Maidan growing in infrastructure and fortifications erected by the constantly growing numbers of Ukrainian people moved to occupy that public space by the actions of their government. Also around the 1st of December, DDoS of president.gov.ua begins, lasting several days and taking the site offline periodically. December 2nd, news site Sofpedia reports, anonymous hackers disrupt Ukrainian government websites during Kiev protests, detailing distributed denial of service attacks have been launched against the websites of the presidency, the main government portal and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, as well as carrying part of a statement from a video released by Anonymous. Recently, we have seen the police use barbaric tactics on peaceful protesters. Anonymous is not delighted. The people of Ukraine are on the brink of a revolution. December 3rd saw the Ukrainian Government Center for Reception and Processing of Special Information and Navigation Field Control, DZZ.gov.ua, hacked and leaked by hacking group Root Security with the tagline, "Welcome to Hell Ukraine, end your ways or we'll end you." Radio Free Europe was hit by a massive DDoS on Sunday the 9th of December. This was believed to be linked to sympathetic coverage of the protests in Ukraine. As a spokesperson noted at the time on social media, "Our site appears to be under DDoS attack. We'll be posting Euromaidan and other updates on Tumblr in interim." In the end, the website was offline for only about 3 hours. News site Sofpedia carries an article on December 14th stating, "Anonymous hacktivists say they've teamed up with Femin, the world-renowned exhibitionist feminist protest group, in an effort to support the people who are protesting these days in Ukraine against the local government." Anonymous hackers set their sights on Ukraine earlier this year. In October, they hacked into the systems of the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and leaked a large number of documents. Xenia Chernyshova, the founder of Femin Quebec, warns that Ukrainian authorities plan on paying thousands of people to come to Kiev in support of the country's president, Viktor Yanukovych. She believes the government wants to push Ukrainians at each other in order to get an excuse to use radical measures. "We will not sit by and stand idle while we watch another movement like Occupy Wall Street, the Arab Springs, Idle No More, etc. suffer injury and brutalization at the hands of a government-paid goon squad. On behalf of spoiled elites who are increasingly frightened by the very people they are supposed to serve, but are all too happy to walk on or exploit," the anonymous hackers noted. Meanwhile, Telecomics, a decentralized cluster of net activists committed to freedom of expression online, began provisioning dial-up access that would be harder for the Ukrainian authorities to block in January of 2014, as well as providing translated guides for people to protect their online communications from government surveillance. Dear subscriber, you are registered as a participant in a mass riot. This is the text message received by protesters who were near areas of violent clashes between government forces and Ukrainian Euromaidan supporters on the 19th of January in Kiev. As The Guardian reported at the time, the language echoed the wording of tough new laws on public gatherings, the passing of which served as a spark for the radicalization of the protest movement over the weekend. The laws went into effect on Tuesday and provide for jail sentences of up to 15 years for participating in mass riots. Prosecutor General Viktor Yanukovych issued a statement on Monday calling the disturbances in Kiev crimes against the state. Ukraine's President Viktor Yanukovych said he had tried to listen to peaceful demands but would use all legal methods provided for by the laws of Ukraine to guarantee public safety. Ukrainian cell phone providers denied any involvement with the text messages. MTS issued a statement saying, "Today we started receiving complaints from users in central Kiev who all received SMS messages from the number 111 containing identical text. We had nothing to do with the distribution." Media reports from the time estimate that the night of the 19th had seen well over 1,000 people injured in clashes with riot police. The Ukrainian authorities put the number of civilians injured at only 122 though. On the 24th of January, protesters broke into the Agricultural Policy Ministry building in central Kiev, meeting no resistance as they entered and occupied the building. 30 Ukrainian government, educational, media and commercial websites were defaced by neo-fascist Svoboda party supporters on the 1st of February 2014. The defaced websites included a statement from Svoboda that read, "We are ready to take over. We are the only real political force in the country. We came forever. We don't need a constitution of 2004. Down with Klitschko and Yatsenyuk. We will go till the end." This was followed on the 10th of February by an announcement from a group calling itself Anonymous Ukraine that they were launching OpIndependence in support of the Yanukovych government and in opposition to NATO and EU membership. Their statement included the following: "Hello, we are Anonymous Ukraine. We do not like what is happening in Ukraine now. So-called opposition is trying to tear our country apart. Opposition leaders will hurl Ukraine into chaos. We appeal to the President of our country. People of Ukraine urge you to restore order and bring calm and stability." The day after the announcement of OpIndependence, Anonymous Ukraine leaked 130 megabytes of emails, allegedly stolen from the regional offices of the Ukrainian Democratic Alliance for Reform, or UDAR, the party led by politician and former professional boxer Vitaly Klitschko. This leak was accompanied by the following: "Once again we appeal to the President Yanukovych. People of Ukraine urge you to restore order and bring calm and stability. It's time to disperse this gang of robbers and Nazis. Ukraine must be unified and independent." Meanwhile, Euromaidan protests continued with tens of thousands of people taking to the streets of Kiev and across the country of Ukraine to protest government brutality and policies moving the country towards deeper ties with Russia. The official Twitter account of podrobnosti.ua, one of the leading online news sites in Ukraine, was hacked at midnight on February 17th. The account tweeted out, "We are the most lying news," and addressed pro-government oligarch Dmitry Firtash. DV Firtash, unfortunately, you ran out of funds to continue publishing lies on this resource. On the 18th of February, reports of internet blackouts across Ukraine intensified. There were rumors of total permanent internet and cell phone shutdowns that might come into effect. These rumors circulated much more widely over the next few days and caused a great deal of concern for people within Ukraine. The 19th of February saw the government announce what amounted to a state of emergency in Kiev and nationwide. The next day, Minister of Internal Affairs Vitaly Zakharchenko announced he had signed a decree to authorize the usage of live ammunition against protesters. Also on the 19th of February, anonymous hackers claimed to have hacked databases belonging to the Ukrainian Ministry of Internal Affairs. On the 22nd of February 2014, Yanukovych admitted defeat and fled Ukraine along with most of his government ministers for Belarus and then eventually Russia, where he lives in exile. Euromaidan protests had been successful, the government fell, and Ukraine entered a new era after what came to be known as the Revolution of Dignity. The regional parliament of Crimea repeatedly stated that because of the events in Kiev, it was ready to join autonomous Crimea to Russia. On 27th of February, armed men seized the Crimean parliament and raised the Russian flag. In the aftermath of the collapse of the Yanukovych government, pro-Russian hackers continued their OpIndependence campaign. On the 28th of February, the group calling itself Anonymous Ukraine declared cyber war on countries and organizations it considered responsible for Yanukovych's fall. They released a statement saying, "This is sad, as some Anons are unknowingly supporting the dark forces at work in Ukraine. Members of Anonymous Ukraine are aware of the internal meddling by the United States, NATO and the European Union into the internal sovereign affairs of Ukraine." This was accompanied by the hacking and defacing of various commercial and government websites in Poland, along with text reading, "Poland has forgotten its history, so we've made defacements of some Polish websites. We want Poland to understand that violent tragedy may happen again if Poland continues to support Ukrainian Nazis." Also on the 28th of February, phone lines between Ukraine and the Ukrainian region of Crimea were cut. Ultimately, the Euromaidan encampment in Kiev would continue till the 10th of August 2014, when the last parts were dismantled. This video is very brief and produced quickly. If you want to know more about Euromaidan, I advise you to watch some more documentaries on the subject. As I'm producing this video, Ukraine is under attack by Russia. I wish Ukrainian people all success in repelling this invasion.